Good morning. Welcome to Choices Podcast. You got Carcass and me at Choices Podcast. You can find us at choicespodcastofficial.com. We ask you to go on YouTube and just Google Choices. You can find us, and please subscribe as we're trying to grow and we're trying to make better choices. I'm glad to tell you that I, as a lawyer, as a person, as part of your community, I am growing with the things that we're doing on this podcast. But thank you for sharing your Thursday morning with us and getting started. I'm going to try to make it heart-filled. So is Carcass. Good morning, Carcass.
Morning. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm doing good. We got a great guest today, Randy Grimes. He also played at Tampa Bay. He's an interventionist. You're going, what is an interventionist? We're going to teach you today what an interventionist is. And you know that my passion's with recovery. I like to help people, and we're going to enjoy it. And Carcass is going to start us off with a song. Carcass.
Okay, I got you covered on that. And this one fits perfectly. This is Amazing by Aerosmith. Okay, 1993.
Ooh.
I kept the right ones out and let the wrong ones in.
Mhm.
Had an angel of mercy to see me through all my sins. There were times in my life when I was going insane, trying to walk through the pain. Then I lost a grip and hit the floor. Yeah, I thought I could leave, but I couldn't get out the door. I was so sick and tired of lying a lie. I was wishing that I would just die. It's amazing that with a blink of an eye, you finally see the light. Oh, it's amazing when the moment arrives that you know you'll be all right. Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm saying a prayer for the desperate hearts tonight. How about that?
Dude, that's back before Tyler got sober, too.
No, this was right after they got sober.
Oh.
This was off of well, and it goes on to say, the one's last shot's a permanent vacation. And how are you going to fly with broken wings? Life's a journey, not a destination. And I just can't tell you, and I can't tell you just what tomorrow brings. So you got to crawl before you learn to walk. And I just couldn't listen to all the righteous talk. Well, I was out on the street trying to survive, scratching to stay alive. And then in a blink of an eye, and it goes through the chorus again, you finally see the light. So,
Man.
yeah, I think they were seeing that was from the album Permanent Vacation when, and they were talking about death. I mean, they were sitting on the doorstep, all those guys.
Yeah, dude, all those guys were heavy into the heroin, anything.
Anything they could get their hands on, back in the 70s and 80s, it was all about pills and coke and heroin, and now they've got designer stuff that's just spin-offs of all that garbage. And anyway, I used to think that Aerosmith was better before they were sober, but they're certainly lyrically more poignant after they got sober, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a killer band. I think they're all very talented.
Yep.
Anyways, our guest today is Randy Grimes. Can we bring Randy in, Mark? Poof. Hey,
There
Randy.
Hey,
Good morning.
Here.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Randy is in recovery. He's a recovery advocate. Yes. And he's an interventionist. Tell us what an interventionist is, Randy.
Well, people don't just wake up one day and decide to be sober. Sometimes it takes a little help, And the one thing that all alcoholics are consequences, and sometimes, to get somebody in a safe environment, where they can have a medical detox and really dive down and figure out why that person does what they do with the professional therapist. And that's kind of my job, is to help them along the way. You know what I mean? And It takes a lot of work by the family. I ask families to do a lot of hard things, but there are all things that say it's like, and it's on its own. the old saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. I can't say that enough to families. You've got to change something. And that's pretty much what an intervention is.
Yeah, that is a life or death situation. I don't know how many times I've told somebody. I did last week. I was out in California doing one. I don't do a lot of interventions, but if it's kids, I will. I had a kid, and it was like, dude, you're either going to live or you're going to die. And you really got to tell somebody that sometime and look at them right in the eye and go, dude, you're going to be dead, But
and a lot of times it's the family that needs the training. It's the family that needs that discussion. They've gone so long and just given in every time that they're the ones that need most of the work before the intervention.
It's hard to tell a family, isn't it, Randy, you need to let this kid sleep in the park a few more nights by the statute. And they go, oh, no, I can't have my son sleeping in the park by a statute and be homeless. Oh, my God. No, we got to do it. Just let him be there. And it's funny because when a kid tries to leverage with me that, oh, here's what I'm willing to do, here's what I'm not willing to do. I'm like, dude, what leverage you got? Last time I saw you, you're sleeping by a statute in the park. And I just start laughing at them,
Yeah, you're right. And there's all these new intervention formats that have come out, the invitation intervention and all that. But, somebody doesn't call me until things have really hit the fan. And, it's dire straits at that point. So, it's kind of like a shock and awe kind of deal where you go in there and you do whatever it takes to get them in my vehicle or on an airplane or whatever to get to that treatment center because, it's life and death.
Tell us what I hate these things. But tell us what an invitation intervention is.
Well, and that's where you invite them. You invite them to come sit down with the family. You work with them for weeks, sometimes months to get them in that place where they're willing to come sit down with the family and kind of hear everybody's story about how their addiction has affected their.
Write a letter to them, one page, write a letter, how you felt when they did this and how you felt when they did that. I almost got killed in one of those, Randy. I had a buddy of mine that it was an intervention, and his son was way out there, dude. He was a trust fund baby, and it was an invitation intervention. And she was like, I want all of y'all to write a page on how you felt when he did this and he did that. And so we walked into the trust fund baby's house, and she had the chairs lined up, folding chairs lined up in the living room where he had commenced to take his Harley apart in the living room. It was all apart, and he got pissed off at something, and there was holes all in the wall, all the walls. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? There's a good chance this might be my last day here on earth. I was like, I told that interventionist, I was like, lady, you almost got me killed. Anyways, I don't participate in those. I'm with you, Randy. You're a tough old football player. I'm like, dude, let's blitz them, throw their ass in the car or the trunk, or whatever you have to do, drive them to treatment and drop them off.
Let's get going. That's right.
Yeah.
I did have a gun pulled on me one time. I did an intervention with, believe it or not, Coach Jackie Sherrill from Texas A&M, Mississippi State. Me and him went in on a guy, and sure enough, he pulled the gun on me. But thank goodness everything worked out.
Yeah, thank goodness. So why are you passionate about recovery? Because guys like you, me and you, we're passionate about it. We are. I'm passionate about helping people, you know?
Well, I know that on September 22nd, 2009, I fell out of a car at the treatment center and I crawled on all fours through the door. And, I finally had that gift of desperation that I had never had before. Even all the pain and trouble that I caused my family, I'd never had that real desperation until that night when I fell out of that car. And that's what I remember most is crawling through that door and hearing somebody, and I didn't know anything about the Big Book back then, but I remember hearing somebody say, and I don't remember much about that night, but I remember this. I remember somebody saying, Randy, in order to get this, you've got to have the desperation of a drowning man. And, the reason that had such an effect on me then was as an 8-year-old kid in Tyler, Texas, out at Tyler State Park. I can remember being out on one of those paddle boats, where you pump it with your feet. And I fell off that thing and I got my feet caught up in something on the bottom of that lake. And I remember how deaf I was to get back to the surface, how I clawed at the water, how I was screaming underwater to get back to the surface. And, that's why that has not when I heard that, and I knew then that I was in for the fight of my life.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
Huh?
I've been in a position like that where you have that desperate moment, and fortunately, it's obvious that we're all here, so it worked out. But that, I guess, that's the anxiety that you have to have towards recovery, especially when you were crawling into the building, for crying out loud.
Man,
I believe that's what it takes. I believe that it takes that desperation. You've got to. You hear about rock bottom and all that, and I hate that word because a lot of us don't survive rock bottom. But you've got to at least have that gift of desperation, and it doesn't happen to everybody. It happens to a few fortunate ones, but it doesn't happen to everybody, unfortunately.
wow. So how your road to recovery, how's it been?
Man, it's been 16 years of great, just, my relationship with my family, with my kids, with everything, my finances, my employment, things like that. Everything has turned around as a result of crawling into that treatment center September 22nd, 2009. And I'm grateful for the program and all the people that I've met in the program. And, that's people ask me all the time what I miss most about football. And, it's not being out on the field or playing the game. I miss the locker room. And that's what recovered me back is my new locker room.
Oh, that's so awesome. Where'd you go to treatment center at?
Went out, behavioral health of the Palm Beaches out in West Palm Beach.
Oh, wow. So you went fancy. That sounds fancy.
Well, it's fancy or not, it worked.
Fancy or not. That's right.
So tell us about the pressures on and off the football field. How'd that work?
Yeah, well, I was that guy willing to do whatever I had to stay out on the field. I didn't want to get that reputation of always missing practice or always in the training room or always on the injury report. So I was that guy who was willing to do what I had to stay out on the field. And, that meant getting into the drug safe and getting all the opiates that I wanted and getting all the benzos that I wanted and anything that I needed to stay out on the field and to play through that pain. And, I was willing to do that to Well, let me say this: the ways that I justified it were, I wanted to feed my family. I wanted that next big contract. I wanted to be all pro. I didn't want to miss any practices because if I wasn't out there, somebody else was going to be in my spot. So, those are ways that I justified taking the handfuls of opiates every day and the handfuls of benzos at night to get to sleep and to play and to practice through the injuries. And, I played in an era where we used to beat the hell out of each other all week long. It's not like it is now where they never put
it's quicker now. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to practice against each other and beat the hell out of each other all week long in that Tampa heat. And hopefully there was enough left in the tank to play on Sundays. But that was the coaching mentality back then. If you don't practice hard, you're not going to play hard. So a lot of the injuries that we got back then were against our own guys in practice. And I never understood that. But of course, I always did it because that's the way it was back then.
Wow.
And you played in the trenches, right? You were an offensive lineman or a?
Yeah, I was a center. The trenches.
Okay. And who? What did you pay for? John McKay, or was that after his time?
No, yeah, McKay drafted me. I played for 5 different head coaches in 10 years, and 6 different offensive line coaches. Probably had 10 or 12 different quarterbacks get up underneath me in those 10 years. And, we were the Tampa Bay Bucks in the 80s and early 90s were a revolving door of coaches, players, front office people. The only consistent thing about that era was Randy Grimes at center. I seemed to survive every one of those changes.
Wow. That's commendable.
Hmm.
I just hate, I hate the fact that owners treat their players a lot of times like racehorses. Let them run. They get hurt, next. I just hate that about the game.
A lot of that's changed with the last couple of collective bargaining agreements. The players union has gotten more control and authority over that. They don't, back when I played, the concussion protocol was how many fingers am I holding up, and now it's a more, more in depth and detailed, and, they've got a certain amount of time they have to sit out. So, things are changing. They don't practice as hard as they used to. So there's less injuries in practice, and guys are having longer careers as a result of it.
Do you think that teams are doing enough to protect the mental health and sobriety of players?
No. I know a few years ago that they put a therapist in every clubhouse, okay, around the league. But guys don't want to be seen knocking on that door. I've seen these therapists that sit by themselves at lunch at the clubhouse dining room because nobody wants to be seen sitting with them. So there's that stigma that goes along with, having to go in, knocking on that door or sitting with that guy and talking to him. And players don't want to be labeled that.
What changes do you think that they can make, Randy, to make it more inviting, more efficient to help kids?
Maybe having some ex-players that have struggled through the things that they're going through, people that they can relate to. Maybe having off location places where they can go and meet with these people. But guys are struggling. There's a lot of guys out there. And if it's not substance abuse, it's mental health issues. Look what happened lately with the Cowboys. So things are going on in the league that the NFL needs to realize and address.
What do you think's causing all the mental health issues for a young player that just ran for a touchdown after picking up a fumble on a Monday, and then Wednesday he's dead? That was
that's the question, what causes things like that? And obviously it's something that they came into the league with. It wasn't identified earlier. And I'm all for in these colleges, they have such great programs and such great facilities, and they're spending all this money on players and NIL and equipment and all that. Why aren't they getting inside these kids' heads and seeing what's going on and making sure that they're okay? I've always said that I wish high school students would get some kind of an assessment before they leave high school. So maybe you could red flag some kids, but definitely these college athletes that have all the tools in the world at their ready. And why aren't we finding out what's going on with these kids? And so they're coming into the league like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I agree. What do you think about that, Carcass?
Well, having, I'm a huge sports fan, played basketball through high school and part of college, love football. Steve Young was a guy, a neighbor. He was 2 doors down from me. And so I watched him from when he was
1 year
when he was a young buck till when he got drafted by Tampa Bay. They owned his rights, even though he played for the LA Express for a while. And
right.
and he's probably one of the exceptions to the rule because he came from such a stable background. He was a super smart guy, was pre-law. In fact, he was on his way to earning his law degree before he was even done with his fourth year, and he somehow was able to manage it. But once again, he was one of the exceptions, I think. And he even had concerns about, and we're talking back in the early 80s, he even had concerns about longevity and his ability to get, how many times can I get my bell rung and still maintain my cognizance. So this is not a new problem. But I think it's a problem that's been hidden. That's just my hot sports opinion. I think it's been hidden, especially in lieu of the money that's out there to be made, both by the athlete and the franchise or the college. It was no secret that back then, even when BYU in '84 won their national championship, I mean, football financed everything as in the athletic department. And I'm sure that it's no different at Baylor or Texas Tech. Let's not even start talking about that. I'm already mad. I'm still mad about that, but we'll get over it, or I'll get over it. But so do you think that the money in this has kind of slowed that that progress down as far as evaluating these kids or these athletes? Because like Brett, I live here in Dallas, and as much as I'm not a huge Cowboys fan, but I'm a people fan, and to see a guy succeed and come in with such high expectations and hopes and skills, like you said, have all the tools right there in front of him, and then, like Brett said, he scoops up a fumble and scores a touchdown, and then 2 days later he puts he uses a gun to commit suicide. I don't understand how you get to from those 2 points, one to another, that quickly, unless there's just something blatantly wrong. And maybe I'm being naive, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit. But I don't think it's a slow burn. I think sometimes it's more immediate. Do you think that the use of narcotics and so forth is still in use to kind of cover up things, whether it be injuries or mental health or whatever in the league? Do you think that's still a very real problem that's just sort of been deflected and redefined as something else, or what's your opinion on that?
Well, first of all, thank goodness you don't understand what that kid was going through, because that means you're not affected by it. But that's a deep, dark, secret place that there's a lot of guys that are at, and we have to identify who they are. Yeah, money has a lot to do with it now in college sports. It's changed the game completely. I don't think college sports is ever going to be what it used to be because of that, because of the NIL. But there's a lot of things that, and I work a lot with retired players, guys that are leaving the league, guys who are in my position. And, I remember after 10 years at Tampa Bay, I can remember standing at my locker, and, it was after the last game of my 10th year. And, I can remember Sam Weish was our head coach then. It was his first year there. And I remember him putting his hand on my shoulder as he walked by me in the locker room and saying the words, "Hey, Randy, we won't need your services here next year." And I can remember just turning to look to see who that was that said it, and seeing Sam White. My locker was right next to the door that exited the locker room. And all I could see was him hitting that silver bar in the middle of that door and exiting the locker room. And I remember thinking, damn, ends after 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears, all leaving all that on fields all over this country. And that's how it ends. A coach that doesn't even slow down long enough to look me in the eye as a man and tell me that my career is over. And I can remember raking everything out of my locker into a black bag and walking out the back door. And Randy Grimes, the football player, didn't exist anymore. And the reason I bring that up is, that's that transitional trauma that a lot of players go through when they don't have that uniform, or when they don't have that playbook, they don't have that itinerary to go by. And, and it's not just NFL players, it's, veterans, it's first responders, it's pretty much anybody, it's broken marriages, anything that we transition from. Americans don't do very good. And a lot of times we self-medicate those feelings. And, but a lot of the players that I deal with, and it doesn't matter if it's NFL, MLB, if it's NHL or Jockey's Guild or NASCAR, when they don't have that uniform anymore, that identity, then they self-medicate that.
Well, I never heard the term transitional trauma. I love that.
And that's not clinical. That's mine.
Oh no, that's Randy Grimes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a Randy saying. But I love it. That's what it is. You're on the high, the natural high, and doing really cool stuff, and all of a sudden it's gone, right?
Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, I retired in February. I took an early retirement. I was in the landscape business for 40 plus years. I worked for a solid company. In fact, Putt Schote, who was played in the World Football League and the USFL, and played for the Packers for a few years. He was at SMU, had some huge success there. He's the one that started the company. But I remember that it was run like a football team. I remember those football days, those 3-a-days, those hard practices, and it was you're all in or you're all out. There was no in between. And I remember when I finally got the nerve to just say, I've had enough and I'm done, and walking away, that's what I missed the most. I wasn't doing the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. anymore, 6 days a week. And I more missed the team aspect of it, and the camaraderie than I did the actual. And I sometimes I have to kind of poke myself and say, wait a minute, you miss the family aspect or the team aspect, but all that other stuff can stay in the barn. And so that's an interesting thought, that transitional trauma. And so even on a lower level, so to speak, with just like you said, in any type of change in life can send you down a really bad path.
Right.
I hear Randy saying there needs to be more mentorship with these young players coming through there. The problem is they all think they're so smart. Oh my God. You know,
That's
and it's,
right.
you can't tell them anything.
And that's how they're treated in college. You know,
Yeah.
they're baby, they're pampered, they're
I
given all
remember
kinds
Crab.
of money.
I remember Crab telling me that the guy next to him in the locker couldn't even order a pizza. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So, Randy, we're near the end of our show. I want you to give us 3 good takeaways today. What do you want to tell somebody about recovery and about your
Wow.
journey?
About my journey, and I want people to realize that there's hope and help out there if they're struggling with addiction. You know, if I can do it, I mean, you hear that all the time from people. If I can do it, then you can do it, and you know that's absolutely true. And you know, it's one day at a time. It's doing the next right thing. I tell my sponsees all the time, just keep it simple, and just do the next right thing. That's all there is to it. And I want people to know that relationships heal. And me and my wife, we went through it with my kids, and they just me do the next right thing time and time again, week after week after week. And that's what finally healed our relationships through my addiction. And, you know, me and my wife wrote the book together, Off Center. And, it was about our relationship and what we went through and how we help people now. So if you get a chance to go on Amazon and look at offcenterthebook.com, check that out. And it's our story. And, you know, there is life in recovery. There is life after addiction.
I tell somebody I've been sober 36 years, and I tell the young ones, I'm like, that drinking deal you doing, it's way overrated, dude. I mean, I might have missed a good Cabernet every now and then, but I'm really proud that my girls have never seen daddy put one drink down them, you know. But the quality of life is better. It's just better, you know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I like your takeaway of doing the right thing. Don't you, Carcass?
Yep. You see me writing them down because I have a friend that he'd better watch this podcast in the morning. He'd better watch it. This is really good stuff.
It is good stuff. And Randy, we appreciate you. You're a good man.
I appreciate it.
And yeah, I'm going to send you some stuff. I got your contact. I'll
Good.
use you on interventions because I don't do them. And I know Ashley, you met Ashley at my office. You know, she used to work at Laha.
Yeah, I know all those Laha people. They're good people.
You want to hear a funny story? A good takeaway for you?
What?
Chris Raymer.
Yeah.
Chris Raymer and I have been friends since 1989. He has sent me a ton of business for people that were in the ditch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Car wrecks, whatever. So I had his wife stop by my office one day and unannounced, and she asked my receptionist, I want to meet this Brett Stallcup. And I went out there and I met her, and she goes, I just wanted to make sure that you really exist. I go, I do. I know that me and your husband, Raymer, and I would kill for each other. We've never met face to face, ever.
Oh,
Isn't that crazy?
that's
We
crazy.
respect each other's work. We respect each other's opinions. We respect each other's expertise. I've hired him on cases. He's hired me, and we've never met face to face.
That's crazy. That's great.
Isn't that great? Well, Randy, thank you so much. We love you, man.
Hey,
I love
thank
you.
you. Let's do it again sometime.
Thank you for reminding me to do the right thing. You're awesome. Have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Take care.
Take care. Thanks, Randy.